Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with a new layout and video for Hip Kit Club, and I'm using the 2020 May kits again. And I'm also going to be using one of the cut files for this month. And I went ahead and cut it on white cardstock. It says Fun Times Together, and I think it's so cute. And I picked out some things that I want to use. Some of the pattern papers. A lot of these are from the Stamp Market. I've got what's left of one of the Vicky Booten papers, and then some of the Pocket Life cards. And I think what I'm going to do is back the open spots of the letters for Fun Times. And I thought at first that I wanted to do a rainbow because, you know, I'm obsessed with the rainbow color scheme. So I started with kind of a reddish color mixed with a pink for the F. And I just traced the open area and then cut it out, and then erase the pencil lines, and then I'm going to glue it down. So this is pretty much one of the easiest ways to back a cut file, just the way I chose to do it. And this didn't take very long because these letters are pretty big and open, and there were only, you know, a couple, so it didn't take that long. So then I decided I still wanted to do a variety of colors, but I wasn't going to go in rainbow order. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do the U with, but I wanted to do the N with this blue color. I usually go in order of the word, but I don't know. I skipped the U and went to the N. Who knows? This layout is going to go on a journey, so be ready for some interesting things to take place as we go. So yeah, this is just the beginning. Anyway, fast forward, and I got Fun Times done. Like I said, I used some of the Pocket Life cards and some of the papers. So once I got it done, I decided that I needed some green, and I didn't really have any green in anything to put, the green color that I wanted. So I'm going to make it, and I'm going to use the green watercolor that we got in last month's kit. It's that Art Philosophy. It's right there to the left. Fixing to drop a little bit of it onto my desk, and it's called Lucky, and I'm just going to use a little tiny bit of it to color in a little bit of this M, just the top part, so that way I'll have a little bit of this bright springy green color, and I think that adds just the perfect touch. So you can kind of see I still have a rainbow color scheme, but it's just not in order. And then I got really brave and thought, okay, let's go bold and use some hot pink cardstock as my background. And I got that from the cardstock kit. And yeah, we're just going to go for it. And I'm trying to figure out how I want the cut file to go. Do I want it to be straight, or do I want it to or did I want it to be crooked? So I knew that I wanted it to kind of be over on the left side of the page, so I went ahead and I'm going to just start to make a mess right away. And this background is going to be interesting, so just hang in there, stick with me, and it's going to look totally different once it's finished. But it goes through some hardships and some interesting things. So this is just white gesso, and I'm just scraping it down right onto the cardstock. And you got to move fast with gesso, because when you scrape it really thin like this, it dries pretty quick. And so I am scraping it quickly. I'm using my fingers in some areas to kind of smudge the edges. And you can see some of the brush strokes in the white because of the way it dries so fast. But that's okay. I want this background to be messy, and I want it to be kind of grungy. And when I say grungy, just I want it to look really distressed. You know, I want the texture of the cardstock to show through, and I think it's going to be a good base to start with. So okay, that looks like a hot mess with a bunch of white on it, but it's going to transform when I start to add things to it. Okay, are you ready for something interesting? Okay, I wanted to use the color kit from May, so I pulled out the two. We get three, but I pulled out two. I pulled out the melon and the cherry ink pads. That's the red and the orange. And I'm going to kind of use it like watercolor, like I did last week when I was using the light pink cardstock. So I'm just going to stamp it onto some plastic, spritz it with water, and then flip it over and smush the color down. And I think that's a great way. I love that technique. It gets really quick color onto your paper. And I was trying to get that really rich orange color because I've got so much pink on the background. I wanted to incorporate some orange, and I think I'm rummaging around in my Lindy's stash. Yeah, there I am. I pulled out one of the Lindy sprays that we got several months ago and spritz a little bit of that on there. It's really rich, deep pink. I've already put it away. I can't remember the name of it, but if you want to know, remind me in the comments and I will answer you. But I added that in. I'm adding some water and just kind of, you know, moving it around with my brush. Gonna let it dry and see how it looks and go from there. And it always dries a lot lighter than it looks when it's wet. So I wasn't afraid of going too bold. So I'm just going to keep working on it, adding a little bit of water. And I like mixing and matching the products. I like mixing some liquids with those ink pads. And, you know, it's just a different way to use the ink pads, you know, if you're not going to use them for stamping on this particular layout. So I'm going to come back in with some more orange and, yeah, just mix and match the colors. I want some different shades of pink, some different shades of orange. And I wanted this to be visible underneath the cut file, especially on the word together, since I'm going to leave that solid white. I wanted all this fun, bold color to kind of come underneath it, and it's going to make the together really pop off the page. So I like to bring it back, put it on top without it getting wet, and kind of seeing how it looks. And I like how it looks. I'm just going to keep working on it. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to work on adding some adhesive foam behind the cut file, because I want to pop that up off the page so it creates some dimension. So this is going to be interesting in just a second. I'm letting my background dry. And when I finished with my cut file, I pulled it back, and look what happened. All of that color disappeared when it dried. I kid you not. It completely vanished. It looks like my background hasn't even started yet. I was flabbergasted. I spent all that time adding all that color and it disappeared. It just dried, invisible. It's magic. I don't know. This is like the case of the missing ink. I don't know what happened, but it disappeared. So I felt like I had to start over. So I thought I would try it differently this time. I thought, okay, let me just stick the ink pad right on top of the background and add less water and see what happens. I don't know if it's the gesso or what. I've had this issue before in the past with Lindy's. Lindy's not working on top of the Liquitex gesso. And when I put this gesso on top of my paper, I wasn't even thinking about using the Lindy's. I was thinking about just using the Stamp Market products. And so I don't know if the combination of the two made it disappear. I have no idea. So instead of using the Lindy's the second time around, I went back to those Art Philosophy watercolors from last month, and I thought, well, I'll use the pink, and that color is called Blush, and so I'm going to use that instead, mixed with the Stamp Market ink pads instead of the Lindy's spray, and see if this disappears. I don't know if it's just me or what, but does anyone else have a case of the disappearing ink? I don't know why that happened, but it was quite mysterious. So yeah. It didn't happen last week when I used the light pink cardstock and I used the same gesso. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a mystery. Anyway, if you're a scientist and also a scrapbooker and you're watching this video and you have an answer, let me know. So this worked a little bit better. You can kind of see there when it dried, it did not completely disappear. It did dry lighter, which I knew it would, usually does, but I liked where this was going. I like how it's still pink, but different shades of pink, but it just looks kind of like the background kind of turned to liquid and then dried, which was what I wanted. I still want lots of pink, but I just wanted some orange too. So I'm going to come back in with the orange ink pad and again, add a little bit more water and kind of continue to work on it. I'm going to wind up adding so many layers of color to this background by the time it is done because I did not want it to vanish again. I wanted it to be nice and pink and orange and bold. And after I got finished with it and the orange and the pink were all there, I wasn't about to try to add another color because I had entertained the idea of adding blue. And then I thought, no girl, just don't. Don't do it. Because I just thought I would leave it as it is. And I actually love how this background turns out once it's finished. So, all right, I got my orange on there. I like how that's looking. I'm going to come in with some more of the pink because I'm just not done with the pink. I can never be satisfied with, the pink. I have to add more. And so I'm going to continue with that. And again, I'm using the blush from last month, the Art Philosophy. And I keep bringing the cut file back because I want to see how it looks. And then I decided to add in some gelatos. I wanted some more deeper, not red, but a really deep reddish pink. And so I'm using a red gelato in a couple spots. And I'm just going to smudge just a tiny bit down, use my finger, a little bit of water, and smudge it around in a few places. And gelatos are fun. I've had these in my stash for years. I got these at Michael's, and they're by Faber-Castell. And they're kind of like lipsticks, cross between lipstick and maybe like an oil pastel, but you just scribble a little bit of color down. You can smudge it with your finger. You can smudge it with water and a brush. They react so well with water. You can kind of see there, they kind of turn into almost like a watercolor. But I love using them on textured cardstock because when you smudge it with your finger, you know, you can still see the texture of the cardstock through it. And they work great with gesso. You can use these without gesso. But yeah, I'm just trying to get a little bit of a darker pinkish color kind of around the edges of the cut file up there at the top. So now you can see why it takes me forever to make a layout, because the backgrounds sort of overtake me so many times. And before I know it, I've spent way too long on a background. Do any of you obsess over, you know, one specific thing when you're making your layouts? Because backgrounds are the one thing that, for some reason, I just have to keep going on it until I get it just like I want it. And it always looks like a hot mess when it's in this phase. And then once I start to add everything back on top of it, it just completely looks different, you know? It transforms because some of it's covered up. You can still see parts of it, but it just makes it look like a totally different piece of paper. All right, so yay, it's still there. It dried. Look, it did not disappear. I was so excited. And then here's what I thought about adding more orange. I thought, you have a yellow and a pink Art Philosophy from last month. Mix those together. Duh, they make orange. You know that they don't disappear, as we've seen here now. So yeah, I mixed the blush with the honey, and I got a gorgeous orange color. So now I was on a roll. I thought, okay, what feels like 2 years later, I've finally figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep working and adding orange in because I love pink and orange together, and I feel like I've got a lot of pink going, and I just wanted more orange to show, you know, through the cut file and then around it. And I cannot believe we're almost at 13 minutes in this video, and we're still on the background. I completely understand if you want to fast forward at this point, but I like to keep in all the struggles and all the things that happen in the making of these layouts, because, you know, I don't want you to encounter some of the same issues. If, you know, if you can learn something from this, then that's awesome. But yeah, I like to keep all the things in there, the good, the bad, the ugly, and show you what worked for me, and, you know, just to inspire you and give you some ideas. You know, you could totally make this entire layout right here without this mixed media background. I think this would look adorable on just a plain solid pink paper with no mixed media. But yeah, anyway, all right, so I took a break, let it dry, and I chose my photos there. I've got 3 small pictures. Of course, they're selfies of me and my daughter. That's pretty much all I scrap, it seems like. We take a lot of fun little family selfies around here, but... So I printed 3 of them, and I think I'm going to organize them just like I have here. My thing was, I love the background so much, I didn't want to cover up a lot of the orange areas. The bottom picture I almost put to the right, so it would be under the HER on together, but then I would cover up that little orange section, and I was so proud that I finally got the orange to show. I did not want to cover it up, so I'm going to stack the 2 bottom photos and then put the other one up top and then embellish kind of around them. I picked out a lot of things from the kits. I've got, oh gosh, Pocket Life cards, Amy Tan glitter thickers here. I've got the Dear Lizzie stickers. I've got the Vicky Bouton die cuts. There's a huge variety of brands and products this month, so I just kind of picked out things that matched some bits and pieces that I've already used on other layouts, and I'm just trying things out. For me, that's the best way to figure out what you want to use. Just kind of pull out some things, put them in a pile, things that match or things that you think are cute or that might go with what you're doing, and just sort of play around with it, you know. My thing is I don't glue until I know 100% that I like it and that's where it needs to go, because once I glue it, you know, it's pretty permanent, and I've had to unglue things before, and I've ripped it and torn it, and it's been ruined. So I try to just lay everything out. I love that little black camera die cut. I think that that is where it's going to go, in between the M and the G. And yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. We're not done with the background. Silly me. Who am I kidding? We're going to add white splatters. I don't know. I started to lay everything down, and I remember thinking, this needs some white splatters, so let's do it. And again, I hadn't glued everything down, so it was easy to remove it. And this is just cheap white acrylic craft paint. I water it down and then use my brush and kind of just flick it. You can kind of see there. If you hold it close to the paper and then use your other finger to kind of tap it really quickly, you get that really teeny tiny splatter. But I love how that looks. I love how that looks. I think it turned out really, really pretty. And I think that white splatters look so cool on darker colors like this. You know, you can't really see it on white cardstock unless you add darker mixed media to it. But with this dark, bold pink color. Here I go. See, I'm rearranging things. I had already forgotten how I had arranged it. I didn't even really want to put photos on it, let's face it. I love how this background looks just like that. Everywhere I put a photo, I was like, oh, I don't want to cover this background up. I spent way too long making it. So I'm like, I'm going to use these 3 photos, but where are they going to go? Yeah, you can see the struggle here. I'm going to keep messing around with it. I just didn't want to cover up all that orange because I'd spent way too long making it. But yeah, you know, you never know. You just have to play around with things, play around with the placement of your photos. And sometimes, you know, if you think 3 photos are too much, then just take 1 off and use 2. I've done that many, many times. I really love this big old camera from Vicki Boutin, but I'm going to cut off the strap. And I actually wind up not using this. I do try a few times, but I think it was just too big, and in the end I couldn't find a home for it. I do use that big blue flower though. I think it's so cute, and I like the pop of blue that it adds. And I even love this cluster of flowers here on the packaging. This was on, I think, the Vicki Boutin stencils. Yep, Vicki Boutin's packaging is awesome because there's always something on there that you can cut out. Flowers, butterflies. I actually use the packaging for a few things on this layout. These are the Vicki Boutin's, or no, not Vicki Boutin. Those are the Dear Lizzie stickers. These are the pink paisley stickers. And I'm just pulling some things off at this point. Whatever matches, whatever words I like, and I'm just kind of sticking them on the edge of the cardstock there so I can use them later. I know my light is shining on them, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, there's some puffy stickers that I want to use. And so I'm going to move those all over to the side and try to find a home for all of them. Alright, so I'm going to add some foam behind that little camera and then start to glue all of my little layers here that I've got for my photos. I've got some pocket life card pieces, a piece of a tag there that's orange. And I am going to pop all the photos up with some adhesive foam. So I'm going to go ahead and add that behind those. So they're going to be the same height as the cut file. Now I don't put anything behind together. I'm just going to leave that as it is, but Fun Times is popped up off the page. I'm going to trim off the white border of this flower here that I'm going to add to the edge, and I'm going to run that off the page. And then I decided that I did want the photos to be tilted. Since Fun Times Together is tilted, I decided to tilt the photos. And I wanted a little bit more of that dark reddish pink color to show in this area here, so I just brought my gelato out and added that in because I liked every area. I know I've said that a bunch, but I like every area of this background, and I couldn't decide what to cover up and what to not cover up. So I decide to do it kind of like that after I changed my mind a million times, because I just wanted more of the orange to show, like I said earlier. So I'm going to add a couple of little bits and pieces of stickers as just little borders on some of the photos there. And I tore that Dear Lizzie sticker in half. So I'm going to use half of it on one photo and half of it on that one. And again, I'm trying to use that camera, but it winds up going back into the bin. And then adding some adhesive foam behind that flower. And then I'm going to add in my thread. Again, nothing's glued down yet, so I wanted more of that bright springy green color that's over in the M. So I used some green thread over underneath the picture there, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down that blue flower because I know that that's going to go right there. And then we're going to start to glue everything else down. Did I glue down Fun Times? You know you're losing your mind when you're actually watching your own video and you can't remember if you've actually done something that you've been looking at for the past 20 minutes. I may have glued it down. You probably know. I don't. It's been a long weekend, my friends, and let me tell you, I'm just glad this layout is done. Yeah, it took me quite a while. So we're going to play with all those stickers there. We're going to play with all the stickers. I tried to pick out things that had a variety of color. I picked out the little Today sticker that's the bright lime green, a couple of white hearts, and then a couple of pink pieces, that orange sticker. I decided to go with aqua thread over underneath the bottom photo there. And then I'm going to add a couple of, whoop, no I'm not. That's coming later. Now we're gluing things down. I must have glued down Fun Times, but I honestly do not remember. I'm getting amnesia. Is there such thing as scrapbooking amnesia? I think I have it. Many, many times I pull that woohoo sticker. Probably 10 times I tried to find a home on this layout for woohoo, and I could not do it. In the end, I do find a place for it, but let me tell you, it haunted me the entire making of this layout. I tried and tried. I couldn't decide. Oh my goodness. Trying to figure out where to put all these little stickers. I love them all, but I wanted to space all the colors around so, you know, I didn't have a bunch of blue things together. There I go, trying to use woohoo. I do use these pink paisley rhinestone stickers, or bling, and I mainly use them for the centers of things. I put one in the middle of the blue flower. Now I'm gluing down Fun Times. I'm losing my mind, people. I'm losing my mind. Quarantine has got me all out of whack. I'll tell you what. I used the grindstone. Y'all, if you're still here listening to my babble, I applaud you because I can't speak proper English. I added the rhinestones to the middle of the blue flower and the middle of the camera. And then I decided, since I got one flower over there, I needed some more flowers over here. And I wanted to use that packaging that I cut out, but I also wanted to pop a blue. So I'm going to use the packaging with this other blue flower from a die cut that I trimmed out, which of course I have to pop it up to match everything else. So I love how that turned out. I know that that pink flower kind of blends in with the pink background, but I think you can still see it, and I really love how that turns out. And I do add some green thread under that, but I wind up taking it out because in the end I felt like I didn't really need it, so I do pull that out here in just a bit. Here I go again with woohoo, and there it is again over on the side. Oh my goodness. Oh, I really like this idea. I couldn't figure out how I could get some more orange on the background, so I just fussy cut out some of these little circles from that Stamp Market paper and just glued them around the page like they were big enamel dots. So yeah, I like how that turned out. I just cut out, I think, maybe 7 or so and scattered them around the page so it looks like, you know, enamel dots or big orange splatters, just little orange circles here and there. And get those glued down. And then help woohoo. Woohoo. Oh, poor woohoo. Where is it going to go? To the side. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're almost done. Here's where I use the packaging again. I wanted some small green circles, so I used my hole punch because I did not have a punch that was smaller than those orange circles. So I just used my hole punch, and then I instantly had some little green circles. And again, that was from the packaging, so I like how that came in handy. I'm going to add that family sticker because it was the perfect blue, and I just like how it looked. Oh, here's what I did with Woohoo. I cut it in half. Come on, Woohoo, you can do it. Where are you going to go? You're going to go right there. And I finally just said, you know what? That's where it's going. I'm not moving it again. You're going there, and you're going to stay there, and you're going to like it. So, woohoo, it's done. Anyway, almost finished, almost finished. I'm going to add in my journaling. I'm using my ruler there and my black fine tip Sharpie. Woohoo is right. It's done. Oh my goodness. This is the longest video in the history of videos, but there it is. I love how this turned out. I really love the background. I'm glad I spent that time on it because I think the orange and it just, I love how it turned out. I love the pink background. It was definitely a challenge because it's so bold. And you know, when you first add that gesso, it's like, I've ruined this paper. But then once you add everything to it, and it just changes. And I think it looks so cool. And I love how it turns out. And I love this mix of color. You can see all the different textures and all the different products and how they look so different all mixed together. And yeah, I took a lot of close-ups. So yep, you can see the dimension there from the adhesive foam. I love the white splatters. Oh, I did add some black stitching in a couple spots. I did that at the very end. I forgot to mention that, but just a couple of straight stitches in a couple spots. But anyway, thank you for sticking with me through this crazy long video, and I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy everything that you saw here. I hope you will check out this cut file. If it's not up, it will be soon, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.